Teachavision is brought to you by
Hi, this is Maureen from Insightable Puzzles. Puzzles designed with the blind in mind. Raised lines, shapes, textures, and sometimes braille can be used as clues to piece together a tactile jigsaw puzzle, born of your patience and persistence. Whether you're a new or a seasoned puzzler, there is a puzzle that's just right for you. Explore my website, insightablepuzzles.com. That's INSIGHT able. And discover the fun of completing a puzzle by touch alone.
The opinions expressed on Teachavision are solely those of the guests and hosts and do not represent other companies or third parties. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to a Teachavision bonus, where you never know what surprises are within unless you play it. Bonuses do not follow the usual podcast routine, so without any further ado, here's your host, Jose Briceño.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to this Christmas special of Teachavision. As the intro says, where everyone has a different version of learning. Thank you for joining us today. And, every year we always, minus last year, but the less we talk about last year, the better. So, apart from last year, we always try to make it a tradition to do a little Christmas special. The first year we did audio games. The second year we did a gift list. And this year we're going to actually do something different. What is it? Well, stay tuned right here on this Christmas special of Teachavision by Screenless Allies. Alrighty, if you tuned in this far, well then thank you for listening. So before we go any further, I want to clarify that what you're about to hear are the opinions of the people on these recordings and do not represent Teachavision or anyone else. So we ask that you kindly be respectful in the points of view of these opinions, because, we have to put that in a disclaimer now, because everyone nowadays think, you have to fight over everything. Let's not do that. Let's get along and let's listen to these opinions. So this year I went out and asked a few of my friends, what does Christmas mean to you? And this is definitely quite an interesting topic, because a lot of people have different meanings of Christmas, and that is cool. Again, where everyone has a different vision of learning, same thing applies to where everyone has a different vision of Christmas. So, with that being said, we're going to play a couple of recordings of the answer to this question. But first, I'm going to read a contribution that I received from Courtney Greer, if you remember her, from the very beginning of Teachavision, way back, about 40 some odd episodes ago. She gave us a written contribution, and I'm going to read it to you now. Of course, I'll also comment on it at the end after I read it. So here we go. We're going to start off with Courtney's contribution. The message reads, it means love and family, and for a long time, it meant snow skiing. It means hope for new beginnings, and she also states that my favorite part of Christmas is Christmas lights. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we as blind people can't experience Christmas lights, so, it's kind of a problem. But that's true. That's a good point. Yes, definitely with a family, definitely, being around family. And, of course, the snow skiing, you forget that snow skiing in Christmas time is pretty common. So it definitely makes a lot more sense. So thank you, Courtney, for your submission. All right. We're going to bring in Maureen Handworker. Let's go ahead and bring her in and let's hear her take on it.
What does Christmas mean to me? As a Christian, I have to say first and foremost that Christmas means celebrating the birth of Jesus. And I try not to forget that in the weeks leading up to Christmas Day. But with all the busyness and quite frankly the fun of the season, it's really hard not to get caught up in that. And I don't always carve out the time that I would like to reflect on the real meaning of the season. Oh, and every year I try to get better at that, but it's hard. You know, Christmas Eve is actually my favorite day of the entire year because by Christmas Eve, everything is done. The parties are over, cookies have been baked, presents wrapped. And so it's really finally the time where things slow down and I get to embrace the quiet and the peace and surround myself with family and friends. So I love that part of Christmas. Yeah, so for me, the meaning of Christmas, first and foremost, is Jesus. Secondly, to surround myself with people who are important to me and to fully embrace the peace and the joy that comes with that. So with all that said, I wish all of you a wonderful, peaceful Christmas.
Okay, you know, I admit that it is definitely hard to focus on things like family when you have things like cookies and food and now my mouth is watering at this point. So I do get it, but that is definitely a great point of view in the situation. So thank you, Miss Maureen, for this contribution. Really appreciate it. All right, the next one is my buddy, the guy that you came to know and love for being on the bonus episode where we went to the convention in Orlando, Florida, the national convention of the National Federation of the Blind. My buddy Edgar has his take on what his point of view is of Christmas.
To me, Christmas is a time to relax with family, to enjoy in watching movies, and of course, eating really good food, and all the traditions that come with it. And also, if you happen to have kids, Christmas is definitely a good time to expose your kids to all the different traditions of Christmas, like Santa Claus.
Man, thank you for that contribution, man. You know, honestly, yes. Food, family, you know, everyone's agreeing on food and family and things like that. And yeah, definitely the Christmas traditions. You know, it's funny that we're talking about traditions, so it's interesting how the traditions go in different areas. So, for example, avoid the politics. In Mexico, when we have the Christmas traditions, we got the tamales, the food of tamales, or as we call it here, tamales. And then we got, you know, sometimes we do the barbacoa, which is the cheekbone of the animal. Most of the time, a cow cheek. And there's birria, another kind of meat. It's just amazing. Also, we have what they call the posadas, which is a religious situation here where, you know, they go pray for, you know, for the year. And there's just so much that goes into it. And of course, at the end of the whole thing is the food, the piñatas, the bolo, which is the candy bag. Oh, it's just awesome. You know, Edgar and I always talk about this, you know, as we come through the years. It was amazing as kids. You looked forward to the posadas, and it was just amazing. It was a great thing to have. So, man, you know what? I'm nostalgic now. Now we're older. We're like, you know, this is, you know, we don't have that kind of excitement anymore. You know, we can't do what the kids did anymore. So, yes, expose your kids to these traditions, and it's awesome. Man, thank you for that contribution, Edgar. For sure, man. You're awesome.
Want honest, non-influenced reviews over assistive and mainstream technology from a blind person's perspective? Check out the Teachability reviews on our website.
We're going to now play a clip from another person you've already heard on the podcast, Miss Cheryl Webster. Yes, the teacher that got me to begin presenting for classes and continuing with that legacy myself to this day. And we get to hear her take on what Christmas is for her.
Teachers love to celebrate with their students. I remember as a middle school reading teacher, staying up late nights, making cookies, wrapping stacks of scholastic books I picked out with the interest of each student in mind, and I'd wrap them in fancy paper and ribbon, decorate the classroom. But really, Christmas is about the one present, about the God with us who was born and died to save us from our sins. All of our classroom celebrations, the sparkly bulletin boards we make, the treats, the gifts, that's just really like tissue paper around the one great gift. of Jesus. Merry Christmas.
Ms. Webster, I like the fact that you described the boards, what you have on that. That's actually pretty interesting. It would be kind of cool to one day have an adapted classroom for the blind, just so they can kind of witness Christmas a little bit, with Braille stuff. And I know it's probably easy and, it can't be done, but, it would be cool to one day see a classroom like this. I'll share my view in a bit as well. We saved the best for last. The final recording, we're going to bring in a new person to the podcast, and this young lady and I have been friends for almost 4 years. We met at my workplace, and we ended up becoming friends after texting until 4 o'clock in the morning one night. She had a lot of blind questions, and maybe, we might have her on to the podcast to do something here together. But I want to introduce you to Darcy Young. She wanted to put in her contribution, and I appreciate her doing this because I'm sure it was a little nerve-wracking for her to do it, but here we go.
So it's really funny that Jose chose the question that he did, and that is, what does Christmas mean to you? And it just makes me laugh because anytime there was a holiday, birthday, Christmas, some sort of occasion, he is always wanting the latest and greatest Apple product that's come out. And every time I tell him, Jose, it's not the gift. It's just the thought that counts. You don't have to get a gift. And I think that really is important. And it goes back to the point of what Christmas means to me. I believe that Christmas is a time to spend with your family and your friends, people that you don't get to see, very often, and, make a new memory with. I love, as much as I say, it's not about the gifts, I do love getting that friend or family member that one special gift and getting to see them open it. This year, I got my best friend a really cool vintage rodeo jacket that she and I were talking about, and it was just a little bit too pricey for what she wanted to spend. And I just kept thinking about that jacket, man, how cool would that be if she could have that? And so I went and I bought it for her, splurged a little bit, but I am so looking forward to just watching her face as she opens it and listening to her expression. And I think that really is what Christmas means, is just making somebody else's day. So thanks, Jose.
Okay, I need to clarify. I knew she would throw me under the bus like that. I need to clarify. Yes, we joke around about the Apple products and birthdays, but I was actually the one that told her that it doesn't matter what the gift is. It's the thought that counted. And she told me that it was a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, I don't appreciate that. No, I'm kidding. Darcy, shout out to you. Thank you so much for doing this contribution as well. I do say the thought is what counts. So there's that. So now regarding the rodeo jacket, now that's a pretty cool little gift. Oh man. The nice thing about gifts too is that they're the surprises, right? Because, you always drop hints, and sometimes you don't even intentionally mean to drop hints about presents, but you do it anyway. And nothing is nicer than you getting a gift that you just don't expect because, like she said, you can't afford it. So, Darcy, I have been looking for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's got ChatGPT in it, Apple Intelligence. So, for those... No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I am very grateful to have a friend like Darcy out there. And I know she's probably gonna be like, oh, Jose, stop it. But I just got to say, I am so fortunate to have a friend like her. So now, that being said, it's time for me to provide you with my definition of what does Christmas mean to me. Honestly, I can agree that it's family. I can agree that it's, spending your time relaxing at home, not worrying about any kind of work, listening to movies, honestly, I'm not much of a movie person, but just listening to, Christmas related stuff in general, not in November or in October like some people do. Anyway, no, I'm not bitter about it or anything with the Christmas music. No. But in all seriousness, listening to shows or your favorite book, if you read books, those kind of things during the Christmas holiday, spending it with your family, saying Merry Christmas to your friends. Yeah, the gift is a good thing to have, but honestly, at the end of the day, the biggest gift that I could ever get is the gift from friends. Honestly, getting the gift of having friendships and having all the things that happen to me every year is honestly the best gift. Having my family with me throughout the year and to this point is probably the best gift I could ever get. So honestly, for me, Christmas is definitely family. So there you go, guys. This was a little simpler. I understand it was a little simpler, but I wanted to just share, what does Christmas mean to some people? And of course, there are so many different ways you can take this question, but these are just some of the answers that you could expect to hear. We really appreciate you taking a moment and listening to Teachavision and hearing some of these points of view. We really could not ask for a better audience. Thank you all very much for being here with us. We wish you a Merry Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, Happy Holidays. Nothing wrong with that. But I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, evening. And we will see you again this coming Sunday, actually, for the next part of the interview with Maureen before the year ends. So we wish you a Merry Christmas. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.